Howdy doody, and welcome back or welcome to Lorena's Labyrinth. And joining me today, of course, I'm Anna Pirelli. I've been a little busy over the last week. I've been trying to work on stuff here. I've had people over from the eastern states. We're going through a heat wave. It's been stinking, scorching hot. Such is life. We are surviving. I've also been continuing to work on channel for the content here, and that includes doing a lot of research for the numerology stuff. But anyway, I will kick on. I hope life is treating you well, though. Do write a comment. I'm interested to hear what's happening with people. So what's new? Okay, well, we've loaded some new numerology content. The ruling number 1 is now up. It turned out to be a very long video. I have to admit that I wasn't aware that it would be as time consuming as it was. And when I say number 1, I actually am referring to number 10 because there actually is no ruling number 1, although usually a number 10 is broken down to a number 1 as a ruling number, not because it's a bit complex. Have a look at the video. Okay, I have started prepping to load the ruling number 2. That should go up this Monday as well. So I'll speak more about numerology in a moment. I'm also continuing to work, and I have completed some of the self-help content, but I'll speak to that when we go to the self-help slide. So in regard to the self-care content, there was some stuff put up last week about boundaries and respecting yourself. So that was Friday, November the 17th, if I recall correctly. There is another one that has gone up. It's the first part in a series on, basically, it's moving on from the boundaries videos and talking instead about how do you identify, because this becomes a big thing. How do we identify who we keep in our life, who we trust, who we let close to us, and all of that? So I've got a new series happening at the moment about friendship circles. So it looks like it's going to be a 3-part series. So this is all content that hopefully will be very beneficial. You will find it loaded in self-care. So we're definitely playing around with background music at the moment on the back of videos to make it a little bit more interesting, and because I feel that it might be more helpful without having me drone on. Maybe it'll make it a bit easier for the listener here. So if you have preferences for music, please let us know what your preferences are. If you've got suggestions, more than happy to accommodate these. Just write a comment below. We'll do our best. So we're definitely playing around with background music at the moment on the back of videos to make it a little bit more interesting, and because I feel that it might be more helpful without having me drone on. Maybe it'll make it a bit easier. So the content for numerology continues to be loaded, and I've got to admit, I find this subject fascinating. I've become a bit of an OCD numerology monster. I devour this information when I'm seeking to find understanding into people's personality traits. So I've been doing a lot of Googling to get birth dates of famous people as part of us having comparisons, when we look at the numerology content. Anyway, I've distracted myself. The content for number 2 has been loaded. The ruling number 2. Ruling number 3 is going to be loaded on Monday. Now, in regard to the content for the number 2, of course, once it's loaded, then I learn new information, right? So if you've managed to watch that, you'll know that Ronald Reagan was a 2, and you'll know the implications of what that means. So, of course, now that I've loaded it, I've established that, oh my God, Biden is also a ruling 2. Based on his birthday. Do a Google yourself. Now, what I find interesting is both Ronald Reagan and Biden are really quite elderly presidents for the US, and both are being accused of, or certainly Ronald Reagan was towards the end of his presidency, people were saying that he was demented and he was a puppet and all of that kind of stuff. Now we have something similar happening with Biden at the moment, same kind of comparisons. And for those of us that are a bit older, it definitely hadn't escaped my attention, the similarities between Reagan and Biden. Not that they're the same person, but they're certainly addressing questions around fitness for term and office. Anyway, I also discovered after I've loaded it, it's not all bad news. I was wondering if the number 2 reflected Alzheimer's. But of course, Wayne Dyer, he was a number 2. Now, he didn't die from Alzheimer's and he didn't suffer from it. So that should be comforting to those people that have got a ruling 2. I think perhaps if I was to make a little bit of an analysis of this, The difference is that Dyer was focused on the health of the mind, whereas perhaps Biden and Reagan were focused more on power as opposed to health. I don't know, that's just something for consideration. Dyer apparently died of a heart attack brought on by other illnesses. I'm not sure. But anyway, there's something else I have found out since I loaded that, and I'm going to go on to that now because I find it quite fascinating. So, what I find interesting is I happened to find this out actually only last night when I was doing some Googling around, and I'd already found Angelica, to be clear. What I didn't know and what I learned yesterday was her birthday and that she's actually a ruling 2. So she flies in the face of the information about Reagan and Biden. She is just such a gorgeous girl with a fascinating background, not without challenges. For those that aren't aware, she was on America's Got Talent when she was 9 years old, and she sang Rise Up, and she actually did the most amazing, heartwarming version of the song that I think many will ever see. So if you get the chance and you want to watch it, I recommend that you do. I've got a link in the description, which is her at 9 years old singing the song on stage, just so you can see she just is a ray of sunshine. And then I've got another one where she's actually singing the same song with her vocal coach as a teenager. I think it might have been loaded about a year or two ago. But either way, she is an absolute blessing. Now, what I've done here, although this is not the content on ruling 2, is just to put this up to look at what's going on for this little lass here, right? So the implications of the birth chart here, it's not all about the ruling number. They have relevance, especially for the young person in the 21st century, which of course is Angela. She's got 2 zeros in her birth number. You can see her birth number there is the 31st of July 2007. So that adds up to the 20/2. All right. So what she also has on her birth chart is a couple of arrows. Now, the blue arrow refers to the fact that she likes to have stability and order in her life. She's a planner. So although on her birth chart she's only got the number 3 on the mind plane, that's actually probably reduced because she's got this blue arrow, which would be very much she's in her mind. She's planning a next move and that kind of thing. But she is such a ray of sunshine. What else is there? The arrow that she's got on the right, the green one, actually refers to frustrations, right? So now I'm just going to refer to my notes here and read it out because it was more orderly than when I try and talk through it. What I managed to gather from this is that the numbers reflect that she would have been a very deep thinker, doing a lot of thinking and worrying as a child. Well, she had a kidney transplant, so no surprises there. And because she was young, it makes sense to me as well that there's this reference here that she would have had difficulty processing her emotions and expressing them. So what I concluded was that because she was so young, she probably was deeply frustrated. I mean, most people would if they're that unwell, but as a young person, not really understanding what was going on for her, and obviously seeing the stress and worry that her parents would have been going through, and not being able to express her own concerns and worries and that kind of thing. She wouldn't have had the articulation skills being so young. And she wouldn't have had the energy, right? Because let's be real, if she was that unwell, most children of her age that would have been going through that, if they struggled to articulate, they probably would end up throwing a tantrum. Well, with her being unwell, she probably wouldn't have even been able to work up enough energy to throw a tantrum. But either way, there's a clear message for her going forward as she grows up, is to realise that not everybody in the world is going to have the same moral values as her, and to be able to recognise when to hold on and when to let go, and to be selective about who she lets close to her, into her inner circle. And this is more so than with other people. Look, the content is relevant to everyone anyway, But in the case of Angelica, there is a real need for it because she has these incredible gifts. She is such a rays of sunshine. And if her boundaries are too loose and she becomes too trusting of the wrong people or becomes exploited, there would be a risk that she will become hurt and withdraw and stop shining her brilliant light. And of course, she's got such amazing gifts. That would be a tragedy. So the advice for Angelica is discernment, right? And I don't see, in all honesty, that these indicators in her birth chart will be hugely problematic for her because she has an extremely supportive family unit, from what I can see. And she also has 2 zeros in her birth chart. We'll talk about the zeros another time. Well, we'll talk about in the numerology content when I get onto the birth charts. Technology, of course, remains a beast for me. The internet is very slow, all of that stuff. If you can't tell, I have a new microphone. So while it's better, once again, it's a pain in the backside. I need to get a microphone stand. So currently, to do these recordings, I'm actually holding it in my hand like I'm some kind of superstar. But either way, haha, not. Yes, I'm holding onto the microphone. It's supposed to be a good quality one, whatever. I'm also getting a new modem, so hopefully you're going to start seeing improvement happening. I'll do the best I can. What can I say? We're working on it. Of course, my colleague in Italy, she's also still reviewing and auditing and fixing up the content that's on the channel. So just letting you know. So I continue to try and play with the art and do the AI. And I should have actually said on the technology slide, but I forgot, was that I've found that AI voice stuff, which I'd been told about a long time ago, and I know that I stumble over my words sometimes, and I thought, maybe it's better to actually have AI doing the voiceovers for all of my content, and that way people don't have to listen to me hum and ha and all of that kind of thing. And then I decided, you know what, they just really don't blow my hair back from that part or that aspect of personal connection with people. And it's very hard to have AI emote and create feelings, which of course is what I'm about and what I like to do. So I decided that I wasn't going to do AI for things like these weekly things. But what I have done is I've started doing AI with the voice for inspirational quotes and things like that, because to me it seemed to be more relevant, more applicable, and just something a little bit different, a little bit more color to the channel, if you like. Now, I've got some content that's coming up in the near future, which that'll be a surprise for you. It's only about a week away, and that'll have a mix of both AI and me speaking to content. Actually, it's content in regard to universal laws. We'll speak about that shortly. So, just as a point of interest, because I want to make these videos a little bit more engaging, shall we say, I saw an interview between John Edward and Howie Mandel. It was a podcast, a video podcast, and I thoroughly recommend it if this is the kind of thing that you're into, because I found it very interesting to listen and to watch and observe John and Howie interacting, and also Howie's daughter. Now, a bit of background here is I heard about John Edward back, I think it must have been about 2002 or 2003. It was no biggie. I haven't paid a lot of attention to John Edward for many years, actually, although I did buy one of his books back in the early day. But as I recall, I heard about him through a friend who was absolutely besotted with him. And so I watched a couple of shows with her, and it didn't really resonate with me watching him on the TV, because it's what I call platform work, and I'm not a huge fan of platform work for a variety of reasons, although I realise it's very popular with a lot of people. And at the end of the day, his TV work was actually just platform work. Whereas what I watched with the John Edward and Howie podcast was, it was more one-to-one. He wasn't working a platform. A spirit presented, and he did communicate the information through to one of the people behind the wall. So it was more personal, which that's what I like to see when I see services being provided, if you like. So anyway, suffice to say that the lady that introduced me to John Edward through the TV, she was incredibly gifted. And her gifts had blown open to the point where she was able to communicate with her guides, like they're standing beside her, have a chat. Excuse me, I just need to have a chat with my guides. They're trying to tell me something. So it was actually fascinating days for us back in the day. So I was surprised that she was actually really interested in John Edward. And perhaps I had a bias against him through watching him on the program because I didn't see him as being nearly as good as what she was. But now that I have seen him in that interview where it was more one-on-one, I think, yeah, actually, no, he is very, very good. But what I liked about him was he's actually very practical. He's very down to earth. He's very grounded. And this is a style that resonates with me because I also was very skeptical. Because even though we grow up with gifts, even though we might see spirit or we might see stuff in our dreams, if we're growing up with that, we kind of think that behavior is normal. But at the same time, it's normal and it's no big deal. And then if it's not accepted by the extended family, it kind of becomes repressed. So it's normal, but it's not normal. And it's not a big deal. So even though we've got the gifts, we talk ourselves out of it. That's the best way of describing it. Anyway, I learned that he also is a bit like that. And that's probably why I resonate with him. But I put him up because his birth numbers, to me, none of us should be surprised that his life took him down this pathway where he is delivering messages and talking with spirit, is because it's right there in his numbers. You'll learn how to tell as time goes by. Anyway, I just suggest go and Google John Edward, Howie Mandel podcast, and it should come up with it. Okay, just an interesting tidbit. So I had a whole heap of content here that I was going to talk about with 105 universal laws, which actually I'm not going to bother. Just suffice to say, I'm going to be loading some content really soon. There will be a new playlist going up for the 105 universal laws, and we're going to speak to them directly. Once again, I'm just going to make the point that a lot of the content online at the moment around these laws is actually my intellectual property. Now, I want to clarify with that, and this is all I'm going to do, is say that the 105 universal laws, they are not laws that I've made up, right? Clearly, I've come across them at some point in time. And in fact, I can tell you, when I came across them, it was like 2 pages of just laws with no explanation. And so what I did was I reflected, I did my own, if you like, inner reflections and work on what they actually meant for me to get. So anyway, that's actually a really good reason why we all need to reflect ourselves, is the paragraphs that are associated with that. That's what had meaning for me, and I shared it with people that it might have meaning for them. So what I'm going to do is unpack that, look at that again, because putting things into context, I have recollections, and I can certainly prove that the first time I think I printed off the laws with my copyright name on it, was in about 2005. Might have been 2007, because when I think about it, I can see myself in my mind's eye at what house I was living in when I was actually writing them up. But anyway, where I'm going with this was at a time when I was really actively seeking to expand my consciousness and working diligently to raise my levels of awareness and understanding and to gain insight into the workings of the world, if you like, because I was having a lot of dreams that were prophetic. Now, what I also was trying to do as part of that due diligence was to learn how to do automatic writing and channeling. So that was all part of what I was going through at the time. So, yeah, I can't turn around and say everything that you see on the internet is mine, but a lot of it will be. But we're going to revisit it anyway. And when we revisit it, it will be done in the spirit of discussing and reflecting and talking about the content, because it's never a case, these laws were never ever created as you've got to do this, otherwise this is going to happen. This the document itself was basically a reflective tool, and that's what we're going to expand on. So here's just another little. I put this up the other day thinking, let's do just for fun, let's talk about numerology on a regular basis and just for the heck of it, have some fun and look at people's charts. Now, in this one here, we're looking at Angelina Jordan, who's got a ruling number of 10. Now, we spoke with Angelica. I mean, how close are these names anyway? These girls are incredible singers, They're just so special, is all I can say. Anyway, so going to the ruling 10, Angelina is a ruling 10. She's got 2 zeros. She first entered one of these music things when she was about 6 years old. She sings jazz with heart. Now, the first time I saw her singing, I think it was jazz or blues or whatever, it was like she emotes. Her music is very, very evocative. She sings in such a way as, because of my energy work, the first thing I look at is go like, is she channeling? She looks like she's channeling to me. But she also develops the music. I would recommend that people go and check out because blues might not be for everybody and jazz might not be for everybody, but what she actually did was one of the best versions of Bohemian Rhapsody that I have ever seen that wasn't done by Queen, and everybody loves Queen, and I don't know anybody that actually doesn't like what she did with the song. And I understand that what's his name, the guy with the big hair, I can't remember his name right now, the guitarist, that he and the surviving Queen members have actually given her copyright permissions to use that song because they actually really like what she did with it. So that's just a little bit of feedback there. Having a look at her numbers, actually she's got arrows. I didn't put the arrows on there. She's got 2 arrows. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put this on pause while I go and put the arrows on. Just a moment. Okay, she actually has the arrow of passivity and the arrow of the inquirer. What an interesting combination. So the beauty of understanding this stuff with birth charts is, and Angelina, of course, is now 18, I think. 18? 19? God, I don't remember her birth dates there. Can somebody do maths? Look, either way, she's got family support, and I don't think that they would let her get away with stuff. I think actually her family must be particularly spiritual as well. Having the inquiring mind, being a questioner, is a good thing. But if they get stuck in their mind, which of course she's got a depth of numbers, she's got 6 on the mind plane here anyway, it'd be very easy for her to just spend all of the time in her mind. And the arrow of passivity actually tends to indicate that there is a real risk that they will become lazy or just give up too easily when things get a bit hard. Now, the reason why I say there's a benefit with this is I don't see, once again, and these are examples of why just because it's in your numbers doesn't mean that it's going to happen, because there is such a thing as environment and this kind of thing. And it would appear to me, because Angelina is an achiever, that her parents and her surrounding family members, they don't let her get away with being lazy, and they will have taught her the art of perseverance. Actually, there was something I wanted to mention in regard to Angelina. She actually is a humanitarian, and one of the things that jumps out with her is that she does all of her singing barefoot. She apparently, when she was about 6 years old, saw a homeless person with no shoes, and she said she was never going to wear shoes on stage until all children had shoes or something like that. But you'll find that an interesting story to Google, but definitely watch her singing Bohemian Rhapsody. I recommend it. So while we're on the subject of Angelina, what we're going to do is take a look at, I'm introducing you, if you haven't heard of them already, the Numerology Pyramid. And this shows you the peaks. Everybody gets at least 4 of them. As far as I know, there's no more than 4. That doesn't mean that you die by the time you've reached your 4th one. This is just as far as my knowledge goes. So in Angelina's instinct, if I can speak, in Angelina's instance, based on her numerology chart, there is a forecast attached here where she has her first peak at age 26, which for her is going to be in 2032. And it's going to be a year where her strongest spiritual values are going to emerge. It's going to be far more spiritual. She's going to be consciously working on that Yeah, I'm just thinking, no, I'm not going to go too far into it. It's too involved. All right, so moving on. That's her first peak at age 26. At age 35, she has her second peak, and that second peak is going to be one that's involved with humanitarian endeavours and behaviours. Okay, and then when she hits peak 3, that's going to take her into a master energy number, and I would expect to see her teaching others, and not just pursuing her gift, but teaching people to actively tap into their own potential. And bearing in mind that I actually believe, whether or not she's doing it, whether or not she acknowledges it, that she's actually channeling. I have a feeling that come, how old is she? Age 44. By the time she's 44, but she might be teaching people how to channel music. And then once again, at age 53, she gets back into humanitarian causes. So this is what shows up in her peak pyramid, and everybody can have a peak pyramid. Well, we all do. We all have peaks, have ebbs and flows and peaks and highs and lows. That's life. So that's it for today, folks. I've pretty well given you a summary of what we're doing and where we're going, what our plans are. Forgot to mention we've started loading the Wednesday hump day stuff for you now. That's just some short videos with some inspirational quotes and hopefully some pretty images that helps you feel good. Just something to help you out in the middle of the week. Anyway, they've started. So that's that. I'm going to leave you now. Have a blessed week. May everything go well for you. May the sun shine down. May everything in your life give you warm fuzzies. Thank you for the blessings to the front, to the back, to the right, to the left. See you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.